Today, Bitcoin bounces more than 4% to cap off a volatile week. Binance co-founder CZ says he did not strike a deal with Trump for a pardon after a Wall Street Journal report suggested meetings between him and the president's family. And Jim Angel of Georgetown's McDonough School of Business breaks down the Genius Act, the major piece of stablecoin regulation that just made it through the Senate Banking Committee. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Crypto prices in the green to end the week. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin climbing around 4.5% to around $84,700. Ether rising about 2.5% to $19.22, and Solana jumping nearly 6.3% to $132. The rebound wasn't enough, however, to fully reverse this week's losses. Bitcoin is still down 3% in the past 7 days, marking its third week of losses in the past 4. Ether, meanwhile, sliding more than 11% and suffering its fourth straight week of losses for the first time since May of 2022. The S&P 500 was faring better at midday, down about 2.5% on the week. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. Changpeng Zhao says he did not make a deal for a pardon. The former Binance CEO posted on X yesterday responding to a Wall Street Journal article alleging that the Trump family held deal talks with the exchange following its guilty plea. The article also said discussions for a stake in Binance's U.S. arm came as CZ has pushed for the administration to pardon him for his own 2023 guilty plea. Last April, the Binance founder was sentenced to 4 months in prison after pleading guilty to money laundering violations 5 months before. In the post on X, CZ said he has had no discussions of a Binance U.S. deal with anyone and that it, quote, feels like the article is motivated as an attack on the president and crypto. He also said that the residual forces of the war on crypto from the last administration are still at work. Yesterday, we told you Binance's BNB token rose following the report that the Trump family had explored a stake in the exchange. As of noon Eastern, BNB climbed 1.5% from the 24 hours before. Next, one lawmaker is urging the Treasury Department to squash plans to create a strategic crypto reserve, calling it President Trump's new get-rich-quick scheme. Virginia Congressman Jerry Connolly, a Democrat, wrote this letter to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday. In it, Connolly urged the department to stop all attempts to create a strategic crypto reserve, citing the president's, quote, glaring conflicts of interests. Connolly, the ranking member of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, argued that such a reserve provides no discernible benefit to the American people, but would significantly enrich the president and his donors. The letter comes after President Trump signed an executive order last week directing the Treasury to manage both a strategic Bitcoin reserve as well as a digital asset stockpile holding cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin. We reached out to the president's office for comment but didn't hear back right away. Finally, turning to the first major step to advance a stablecoin regulation bill, the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins, or Genius Act, advanced through the Senate Banking Committee with bipartisan support and now heads to the Senate floor for consideration. The committee advanced the bill with an 18-6 vote. The move marks a considerable step forward in digital asset regulation at the federal level, which could help pave the way for increased adoption. Earlier this week, we told you that according to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, the legislation was updated to include improvements to consumer protections, authorizations for stablecoin issuers, risk mitigation, and more. In a statement following the advancement, Gillibrand said, quote, this important legislation will protect consumers, foster responsible innovation, increase access to basic financial services, and maintain the dominance of the U.S. dollar. The bill still needs to make similar moves in the House of Representatives and then needs to be cleared by both chambers in floor votes. Sticking with this big development for our main story, the industry and lawmakers have been hopeful that the Genius Act could be one of the first major pieces of crypto regulation to pass Congress. For some context on what the passage of the stablecoin regulation bill could mean for issuers and the public, I spoke with Jim Angel, an associate professor at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. All right, Jim, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining me today. The Genius Act passed Senate Banking Committee with new provisions, including what Senator Gillibrand says are new consumer protections and designations for what qualifies as an authorized stablecoin issuer. What do you make of the updated bill, and do these provisions, do you think, address the concerns that the industry and regulators have brought?
Well, they mean well. We are long overdue for common sense crypto regulation. However, when you look at the details in the so-called Genius Act, it's a great example of just how messed up our financial regulatory system is, because it gives stablecoin issuers the choice of Not one, not two, not three, but 55 different regulators at the state and federal level. So in other words, Congress can't make up their mind how to do anything, so they say, "Oh, pick one of the 55 regulators for your stablecoin." And oh, for the federal regulators involved, they're told to issue joint rulemakings. Now, if you think about all the waste and inefficiency that the Doge team is trying to eradicate, this is a classic example. Congress should pick one regulator with a clear mandate and give us some common sense regulation. So yes, we do need regulation, but instead of just putting a Band-Aid on a broken system, let's fix the system. Let's make an example of crypto regulation and do it the right way rather than just hand it to an alphabet soup of different entities.
Do you think the Genius Act, as it is now, creates stricter rules for U.S. companies compared to foreign entities that are issuing stablecoins, and therefore harm competition in the United States? And people that I've spoken with since yesterday have expressed some concern and criticism about potential loopholes for foreign entities that aren't subject to the registration process that a U.S. stablecoin issuer would see here, but would still be able to list on U.S. exchanges.
Well, one of the things we're proud of in the U.S. is the high quality of our capital markets, and a large part of that is that we hold issuers to very high standards. Now, we want to make sure that we protect people in the U.S. so that if you are trading a U.S. issued stablecoin, you know that it has been regulated by serious regulators to make sure the money's really there. And that's the key. And that's why the stablecoin legislation is a good idea, because it requires that stablecoins be backed by solid, stable assets. That's a good thing. Now, I think what we're going to see, which is inevitable, is we're going to see offshore use of dollar-based stablecoins that really don't want to have anything to do with U.S. regulation. So just like we have euro dollars in the TradFi space, we'll have stablecoins outside the U.S. that are linked to the dollar. And by the way, we really benefit from this global use of the dollar in the U.S. We, the U.S. citizens and taxpayers, earn huge amounts of money by the global use of the dollar. And so this is something we want to encourage, not discourage.
So what happens from here? How long is it going to take for this, bill as we have it now to make its way through Congress? And does the fact that there's a competing bill, so we're talking the Genius Act, there's also the Stable Act, does the fact that there's a competing bill slow things down?
Well, my crystal ball, which you can actually see in the background there, is actually pretty cloudy on that. So it hasn't given me the answer on that one. As you know, the legislative process is very slow until it gets very fast. Now, there's a consensus that we need to have common sense regulation, that we need to find a way to regulate stablecoins. There seems to be a consensus of let 55 different regulators have their day. Personally, I think that's a mistake, but it's better than nothing. Now, what other things will Congress be dealing with as they worry about government shutdowns, debt limits, the Doge team? All of these things are affecting them, tariffs. So will the stablecoin legislation be pushed to the side when they deal with other things? Who knows?
Let's fast forward. Say we get the stablecoin legislation, it gets passed. What are the chances we see big banks create their own stablecoins, and why? What is the benefit to them, to the crypto space, and to the end user ultimately?
Well, the stablecoin is a huge moneymaker, because the way a stablecoin works is you give me money, I hand you this token, which you can do anything you want with. Meanwhile, I'm earning interest on your money. So if all I do is park it in T-bills, I'm collecting 4% and you're getting 0. That is a huge interest spread. So I think a lot of banks will be very interested. However, there are also big network effects. So I think the bigger stable coins will be the ones that are more widely accepted, and the smaller ones are going to have trouble getting traction.
Well, speaking of network effects, it did seem like at the end of 2024, every company out there was either launching a stablecoin, introducing one, or in talks to create one. And I am wondering about the network effects, because we do have, two pretty dominant players today in Tether's USDT and Circle's USDC. So we see other companies in crypto talking about issuing stablecoins. We are talking about the banks potentially doing the same thing. What is the point? Do you see them building those network effects in a timely manner, the way that the existing leaders have done so far?
Well, this is classic industrial organization. Whenever you have a technological development, you'll have a wave of entry, and then you have consolidation, so that the more profitable, more stable players emerge, and the rest fall by the wayside. So you see this in industry after industry after industry. So a lot of players are going, wow, there's a lot of money to be made here. And if they can do it, why can't I? And even though there are big network effects, most people want a payment mechanism that other people accept. And the more people who accept it, the more valuable it becomes. That's the network effect. Well, plenty of people are throwing their hat in the ring to see if they can win the battle. And even if they don't win, they might be able to make a few pennies here and there.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World this week. I'll be back again on Monday, and we'll see you then.